Thank you. Wow. You do know there's a hockey game going on. Thank you very much. My name's Andy, and I'm a Liberal. I'd like to thank Harj, a battle buddy of 20 years, a true citizen soldier from British Columbia, who's the first Canadian Sikh to command a regiment. Bonjour et bienvenue au Congrès libéral. C'est un vrai plaisir de vous retrouver ici à Montréal. C'est une ville que j'adore, où ma famille a des profondes racines et où habite ma plus jeune fille, Pippa. Ce soir, je voudrais vous parler de mon engagement au service du Canada. I've been a soldier, but more importantly, I'm a husband to Karen, a remarkable woman who has had to put up with me and my many, many years away from home for a very long time through thick and thin. She's the one in bright red in the front row. And I'm a proud father of 3 accomplished and energetic children. My son Alex is an MBA grad and works in business. He too is an Army veteran who has battled back from injuries incurred in a training accident. My eldest daughter is also a businesswoman, Erica, who served in Afghanistan as an officer, a gunner, and is now a captain in the Army Reserves. And my youngest daughter, Pippa, a graduate of the National Ballet School and an actor here in Montreal, where my family has very strong roots, as witnessed by the presence of essentially the man who replaced my father after he died too young, my Uncle John Claxton, and his 2 sons, David and Ted. Thank you. And because for a very brief moment I have the national stage and I've always wanted to do this, a special mention to my mother, Boo, the granddaughter, daughter, wife, mother, and grandmother of soldiers. Hi, Mom. I firmly believe this is the best country to raise a family in the world. It's also a country worth fighting for, and for 35 years, I've stood my watch as a soldier and a team member in the Canadian Armed Forces. In standing that watch, duty has taken me from every province and territory in our wonderful country. It's also taken me and thousands of others just like me, both in and out of uniform, to Europe, Africa, South America, Asia, Australia, and places in between. In some cases, my stops were only for a couple of days. In others, it was for years. Some of my tours have been routine and focused on training with the troops, education, and raising a family. Others have taken thousands, just like me, to both peacekeeping and wars. Actual war, where both the best and worst of what people can do to each other are on full display. Where many Canadians died or were badly wounded while doing their duty. To them and their families, we can do never enough for their service. I remain deeply grateful to all of you, all across Canada, for the magnificent way in which you responded to the tragedies of Afghanistan, of Croatia, of Bosnia, and far too many other places in the last couple of decades. How all of you rallied around your troops, your foreign affairs officers, the RCMP who share our burdens and pain, and the journalists at times when tragedy struck them and they and their families needed it most. The outpouring of sorrow and love for the fallen and our wounded, and all those who served, and their families, was both awe-inspiring and humbling for all of us currently or at the time in uniform. And for that, you have my eternal gratitude. At home, I saw Canadians' sense of community during the massive forest fires in Penticton and other places that burned, where whole communities banded together to help those homes that were threatened by the flames. During the big Manitoba floods, where thousands of soldiers and residents spent days cheerfully filling sandbags, people they'd never met. Et aussi pendant la grande tempête des verglas en 98, où des dizaines de milliers de citoyens, de premiers répondants, d'employés d'Hydro et membres des forces canadiennes venaient de partout au Canada, se sont réunis pour venir en aide aux Québécois pris dans la froid du Triangle Noir. Both at home and overseas, in good times and bad, I learned about the vital importance of teamwork and leadership. Soon after retiring from the Canadian Forces, I was drawn to the idea of continuing in public service. Now, service is a calling, and we all share it, all of you in this room. It's where the idea of dedicating yourself as an individual to the collective improvement of our society is both honorable and worthwhile. I'll say that again, it's both honorable and worthwhile. But politics is a team activity, and I look for a team and a leader that would inspire me in this ideal. Like sometimes happens with individuals after jobs like the ones I had conversations with several political parties on potential ways that I could best serve Canada. Last year, I made my decision. I wanted to join a team motivated to serve Canadians through hope and hard work. I wanted a leader I could follow heart and soul. I'm a Liberal. Now, I don't know if any of you noticed, but one of the other political parties doesn't seem to be taking the news too well. I'm just guessing. I want to tell them, look, it wasn't you, it was me. But you know what? After this last week, let's be honest, it was really them. They're not going to like that. I want to help all of you, the caucus, the volunteers, the members, the supporters, to offer Canadians a vision, Justin's vision for 2015. That we're compassionate, progressive, and focused on building a stronger economy. Canadians are hungry for change, for a new approach to our politics that is both positive and forward-looking. Oui, les Canadiens veulent du changement en Ottawa. Ils ont soupé du gouvernement conservateur. Ils ont assez de la politique négative de Stephen Harper. And that's why I want to work for this man to make him Prime Minister of Canada in 2015 or even sooner. I see in Justin a man that has a national vision, that is inclusive and caring, and determined to help the middle class achieve a better life for their families. I found a leader who listened, but who can also make the hard calls that a prime minister has to make. For Justin, hope and hard work is a way of life. He's inspired all of us. with his optimism for our country, and yes, even for our politics. And when you see what he's done for our party in terms of mobilizing volunteers, in terms of attracting women and men to his team, in terms of fundraising, it's clear that his infinite capacity for hard work is paying off. Justin, thanks for making us hopeful again. Thanks for being the leader that you are. As I said, it's been quite the week for my family and I. The Conservatives were thoughtful enough to welcome me into political life with a 21-gun salute. And by the way, as a gunner, no, it's good, as a gunner, technically, I can appreciate the organizational skills and the sense of timing required to make this happen. Let me take this head on. We're liberals, we're reformers, we're always open to debate, discussion, improvement of policy. In my case, the issue has become a severance benefit for retiring soldiers, a benefit that's part of a standard package offered to all the troops after 20 years service when they retire. Managed by the Conservative government, and I welcome any debate on this. But let's also make no mistakes about what this was. It's not about the policy. As mentioned, the Conservatives have owned this policy for 8 years. It's administered by the Minister of National Defense. It's his policy. And I welcome the review. I have this vision of the minister looking at himself in the mirror and going, what did I do? How's that going to work out? This was a partisan attack designed to discourage others like me or like you from joining Justin's team because certain people are frightened of the spirit of optimism and hard work and hope that he represents. No other political party are our enemies. As liberals, we may disagree with our political opponents, but they're opponents. Once again, they're not enemies. And I think this Prime Minister and his team, the current Prime Minister and his team, unfortunately, have divided the Canadian world into either a friend or an enemy, with very little gray in between. That's not the way Canada is. We need a more positive approach to politics that involves reaching across the aisle to other parties, whether Conservative, NDP, or Green, to find common ground. So those amongst you who may have been discouraged to see the Conservative attack machine in action once again, I say this. There is nothing, I'll say it again, nothing to fear. I've seen and felt the way that Justin and this entire team stood with me with support from veterans, military comrades, and concerned citizens. It has been both humbling and inspirational. Thank you. You should always learn from these experiences. And what I learned, what we all know, is that when, because it's not if, unfortunately, it's when, the Conservatives launch other or more personal attacks against any of us, Justin will have your back, I will have your back, the Liberal Party will have your back, not only for the team, but for veterans, members of the armed forces, and all Canadians. And for those who are watching on TV, if you don't like what's going on, then join us. We don't throw people under a bus and then back up over them and do it again. It's just not right. It's just not Canadian. The leadership that Justin provides is about positive politics and building a team and listening to good ideas from any source. Justin has very kindly asked me to serve with Marc Garneau, one of Canada's true national heroes, as an astronaut. As a naval officer, as an advisor on international affairs. And I just want to throw some ideas out there for us to think about in terms of the policy weekend. My experience overseas have helped me to compare what I learned at home about us with other societies and what it means to be a Canadian, to enjoy the security, stability, and democratic transparency and basic decency we can sometimes take for granted. The world is changing around us. Canada must think through the impact of emerging shifts in traditional centers of economic influence and power. New friends and trading partners are emerging without abandoning our links to the US, Europe, and the Middle East. As a nation, we have to grow the capacity to help and participate in the development of stability in the Asia-Pacific, in South America, and African regions, as referenced by the brilliant preliminary discussions that I overheard yesterday. Thank you for allowing me to sit in on those. The growing importance of energy security, trade, and the undeniable connection between economic security and national security is in the fore. There's going to have to be an Asia-Arctic pivot that demands that our foreign, economic, and defense and environmental policies be harmonized and coordinated, first and foremost in the three oceans that connect us to that world. I also believe there are no more important roles for government than to ensure that they can defend their citizens and sovereignty, something I've dedicated 35 years to. The Harper government has made a large number of promises about stable long-term funding, new equipment and training resources, almost all of which have been recently broken. Since 2010, the government's ability to effectively financially manage our defense forces in terms of equipment acquisition is the worst on record in the last 50 years. So, to the Conservative base, I'm going to say it again. The government's ability to effectively manage equipment acquisition is the worst on record in the last 50 years. There are over a dozen major equipment programs that are abject failures, ranging from fighter jets to armored vehicles to ships to helicopters, and they can't even buy a modest fleet of trucks that are painted green. Come on, green trucks? How hard can that be? This, by the way, results in denying the troops the equipment they need and prevents tens of thousands of Canadian workers getting the skilled jobs that are associated with building the equipment in Canada. And with each passing year of delays, it's going to cost more to buy this stuff. This performance since 2010 has been inept. The height of the Afghan war, not so much, but since 2010, not acceptable. For our veterans, be it a sailor 6 months away from home, boarding a pirate ship off the coast of Africa, a soldier on his fourth tour, recently returned from bloody firefights in Afghanistan, or a pilot flying on a patrol high above the Arctic at night, if something goes wrong with her fighter, it's straight down for 15,000 feet, and there's no hope of recovery. We ask a lot of these people, as we do of the RCMP and other police forces, who stand the watch and are prepared to sacrifice all to ensure we enjoy the stabilities and securities sometimes we take for granted. There are many who have returned from that duty that struggle to make it all the way home. There are others with less visible scars that have yet to come forward. So, they all need our help. And they need it now. Not just today or tomorrow. There is an implied covenant, a sacred duty that imposes a moral obligation on all of us as Canadians to ensure that we do not cast aside those men and women who stood the watch but can no longer stand alone. In the last decade, tens of thousands of Canadian Force members have become veterans. Thousands have seen active duty, and many have suffered wounds and trauma, both physical and mental. A lot of these veterans are very young, in their 20s, the best that our nation has to offer. And we all hope they will enjoy a long and productive lifetime. Handing them a modest lump sum payment does not and cannot replace a lifetime pension for those that need it. And it is past time to fix this issue. This will cost a bit of money, but it's a price we have to pay. So, fellow Liberals, my resolve has become stronger this week to serve you, to serve Canada. I spent a lot of time with Justin in recent months. I obviously and sincerely respect him for his leadership and his embracing new ways in which to engage with all Canadians. He walked with me in our National Cemetery on Remembrance Day to pay his personal respects to fallen comrades, soldiers who had died on my watch. There's a lot of them. And he did me the honor of running with my family and thousands of others during the Army Run in Ottawa. And yes, he was faster than me. Next year. We'll see. I don't have anything to announce today, but it was an honor to run with Justin, and it would be an honor to run with him again. Alors, merci. Merci à Justin, merci son appui cette semaine, pour sa confiance et pour son leadership inspirant. Merci à tous les membres du Parti libéral qui ici. Merci à tous les gens, les citoyens et citoyennes, who offered help, not only to the Liberal Party, but to Canada, and will continue to do so. Thank you for the continued opportunity to serve Canadians. It is an honor and privilege for me and my family to be included in your family. And to quote our leader, with hope and hard work, we can build a better country, so quite frankly, let's get on with it. I'm sorry, I have one last point to make. What is the score? 0-0. Okay, I didn't blow it for you. Thank you.